In the heart of Santa Barbara, behind the ornate gates of Neverland, a king built a fortress for his most precious treasures. Prince and Paris Jackson didn't enter the world like other celebrity children. Their arrival was shrouded in mystery and legal paperwork. To the public, they were shadows behind silk veils and colorful Spider-Man masks, a father's desperate attempt to grant them anonymity. But the world wouldn't look away. The paparazzi became a permanent fixture, a hungry pack waiting for a single glimpse of the hidden faces. Michael Jackson lived in a bubble of his own making, convinced that these barriers were the only thing keeping his family safe from the storm. November 2002, Berlin. The atmosphere outside the Hotel Adlon was electric, thousands of fans chanting for a glimpse of the king of pop. Then came the moment that changed everything. Michael stepped onto the fourth-floor balcony holding his youngest son, Blanket. In a split second of misguided excitement, he extended the infant over the railing. The world gasped in collective horror. The headlines were brutal. The protector was now viewed as a man of jeopardy. The shield of Neverland had been breached by his own hand. By 2003, the mystery deepened. Martin Bashir's documentary Living with Michael Jackson pulled back the curtain, but only revealed more contradictions. Jackson's own accounts of his children's origins began to clash. One moment, he spoke of a clinical, anonymous surrogacy process. Yet, less than 90 minutes later, he described the mother as a woman he knew and loved. The narrative was fracturing. Public scrutiny turned into a hunt for the truth. If Michael wasn't the biological father, then who was? The rumor mill focused on Dr. Arnold Klein, Michael's longtime dermatologist, a man who held many of Jackson's secrets. Then there was Mark Lester, the child star of Oliver, and a close friend, who later claimed he had donated sperm for Michael. Despite the whispers, the Jackson family legal team maintained a permanent wall of silence. The children's paternity remained a locked vault. As the years passed, the masks finally came off. Prince, Paris, and Blanket stepped out of the shadows and into their own lives. They grew up under the heaviest scrutiny in pop culture history, yet they emerged with a sense of grace and a story only they truly know. The paradox of Michael Jackson's protection remains a haunting chapter of his legacy. A father's love, or a golden cage? In the end, the gates of Neverland are closed, but the echoes of the children who lived within continue to fascinate the world. Behind the golden gates of Neverland and the clinical walls of Holmby Hills lay a world built on the architecture of silence and ironclad NDAs. For decades, the public saw only what the headlines permitted, a flickering kaleidoscope of rumors, mysteries, and the relentless hum of tabloid speculation. But inside, Michael Jackson lived a life of profound isolation, walking through corridors where the echoes of his own fame were the only company he kept. The world was obsessed with the paternity of his children, fueled by grainy comparisons and the ghosts of Hollywood legends like Marlon Brando. Fans and critics alike became amateur detectives, drawing lines between the features of a young Blanket and the icons of a bygone era. They looked for answers in bone structures and eye colors, often forgetting that the bond of a father is written in more than just DNA. By 2009, the pressure of a final comeback culminated in "This is it." Michael stood once more before the vast, empty seats of an arena. In the rehearsals, he was a whirlwind of precision and grace, pushing a 50-year-old body to the limits of human capability. But when the music stopped and the lights dimmed, the reality was one of exhaustion and a fragile spirit tethered to a grueling schedule. In the quiet of his opulent bedroom, the tools of modern medicine stood as silent witnesses to a tragic, mounting inevitability. Then came the afternoon of June 2009. The world stopped. The Holmby Hills mansion was suddenly flooded with the harsh reality of sirens. Inside, 3 children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, found themselves in a world that had suddenly grown immense, silent, and terrifyingly empty. The memorial at the Staples Center was a global event, a sea of purple and blue lights mourning a king they felt they owned. But the most powerful moment came when an 11-year-old girl stepped toward the microphone, shedding the masks of her protected childhood. In 11 seconds of pure, unscripted grief, she reminded us that behind the legend was simply a daddy who was the best father imaginable. In the end, the tabloid mysteries faded, leaving only the poignant human reality of a family's love and a legacy that transcends the noise. To the world, the name was a legacy. To the 3 children, it was a home, a shadow, and a complex road ahead. Growing up behind gates meant more than just privacy. It meant carrying the weight of a global icon every single day. Today, Prince, Paris and Bigi Jackson have moved beyond those walls, carving out identities that are uniquely their own. Prince Jackson, the eldest, chose a path defined by structure and service. He stepped into a role of responsibility early on. He focuses his energy on philanthropic documents and fitness initiatives, choosing to lead with a sense of duty and organizational strength. But he doesn't shy away from the family trade. Prince often works behind the scenes in film production, managing the narrative of his father's life. For him, honor is found in structure. It is about building a sustainable future while respecting the foundation laid before him. Then there is Paris. Her journey has been one of radical transparency and deep artistic expression. She has faced the world with an open heart, using music and journals to process a childhood lived in a glass house. Paris doesn't hide behind walls. Instead, she speaks her truth in candid interviews, navigating the complex emotional landscape of her heritage. She is a person moving from the shadows of history into a light she has made for herself, vibrant and unapologetic. In stark contrast, Bigi Jackson has chosen the power of silence in the sanctuary of privacy. He operates in the quiet spaces, finding his voice not through the spotlight, but through the lens of a film editor. His presence is deliberate. When he does engage with the family estate, it is with a quiet, immovable determination. He reminds us that guarding one's inner world is a form of strength, a way to keep the most precious memories intact. 3 siblings, 3 distinct reactions to the same extraordinary life. They are no longer just children of a legend. They are adults who have faced grief and fame, emerging with personal truths that don't need to match to be valid. In the end, their father's legacy isn't just the music. It is the freedom for each of them to find their own way home. As of this moment, the central question that has shadowed these 3 people remains officially unresolved. No public DNA test has confirmed or denied any of the paternity claims that have circulated for 2 decades. The people who could have resolved it definitively, Debbie Rowe and Arnold Klein, have each departed the question by different routes. Mark Lester remains alive and continues to occupy a position that neither closes the door nor opens it fully. The children themselves, now adults with their own lives, have consistently declined to make the question the center of their public identities. Paris has addressed the rumors directly, pointing out that the absence of a DNA test does not constitute evidence of anything. Prince has said less on the subject. Bigi has said almost nothing. What is left, after the masks and the veils, is something simpler. Michael Jackson hid their faces for years because he knew what the world does to people whose faces it can see. Perhaps the full truth was complicated in ways he was never quite prepared to explain out loud. The simpler question is, who raised them? Who held them at Neverland while the rest of the world kept chasing their faces? But his children are telling their own stories now, in their own voices, on their own terms, with their own faces fully visible. There is one part of this story that rarely gets attention, the specific texture of the childhood they actually had. It was an existence extraordinary in its scale and access, yet difficult in ways that money and fame cannot address. When he wanted to give them a normal experience, it required a level of planning that made it anything but normal. The masks and veils were a response to a reality where any public appearance could become a chaotic convergence of cameras. He was trying to give them access to normal life. The methods required to do that were spectacularly abnormal. Paris has described a childhood filled with love and creative stimulation, a father who read to her and sang to her. She has also described the disorientation of suddenly attending public school for the first time as a teenager. The competencies the Neverland childhood gave her were real. Those it did not give her were also real in their absence. She has spoken about mental health struggles and public attention with a directness that inverts her father's approach. Where he guarded every vulnerability, she has chosen to name hers. The pattern is visible and it is striking. The question of what Michael Jackson hid from his children, the second part of the premise this story operates from, is more complex than it might initially appear. There is the obvious layer of what he hid, the uncertainty around their biological origins, the sealed agreements, the questions that remained open when he died. But there is also a subtler form of hiding that is worth examining carefully. Michael Jackson spent his entire adult life managing an image. He was a consummate professional at controlling the version of himself that the public received. He was almost never caught fully off guard. When your public persona is the primary product you are selling, the machinery of self-presentation becomes automatic in ways that make it difficult to locate the actual person. The question for his children is what version of himself he gave them access to in private. Whether the father they knew was the real Michael. Prince has said in various contexts that his father was funny. genuinely, spontaneously funny in the way that private people are funny. He has described a father who told jokes at dinner and who engaged with his children's lives with real curiosity and real attention. But domestic authenticity and full disclosure are not the same thing. A father can be genuinely warm and still choose not to tell certain things. The question of whether the Jackson children know the full truth of their biological origins is not one that any of them has answered definitively. Prince has been quieter on the subject in ways that could reflect confidence or a choice not to engage with a question whose public airing benefits no one. Bigi has said almost nothing, which is his established pattern across nearly every subject of public interest. What seems likely is that the full picture was never assembled in a single document. The truth exists in fragments across legal agreements and memories. This is how important secrets usually work. Not as a single buried treasure, but as a scattered collection of partial truths that no one person holds completely. What the Jackson children have built, each in their own way, in the years since their father's death is something worth pausing on. Prince has a philanthropic initiative, a producing career, and a long-term relationship. These are markers of an adult life organized around things that matter to him. Paris has a music catalog, an acting resume, and a public voice that she uses selectively to speak about things she actually believes. Bigi has the beginnings of a creative practice in film and a privacy that appears to be chosen rather than imposed. None of these lives is simple. None of them is entirely free of the shadow that a name like Michael Jackson's casts. The secrets Michael kept from the world about his children were about his fundamental belief that certain things belong only to the people they concern. He was not always right about the specific forms his protectiveness took. The masks attracted the very attention they were designed to deflect. But the underlying instinct that his children deserved a protected space the world never gave him was not wrong. It was an instinct born from love. His children have grasped it, or they are in the process of grasping it, in the ways that matter, in the ways that belong only to them. And whatever Michael Jackson hid from them, the thing he gave them that nobody can take away is also visible. It is visible in how they move through the world. They are, each of them, still becoming, still in the middle of a story that is theirs to tell and nobody else's. Not a secret, a life.